fellow travelers, and welcome to another episode of Verta Stars Podcast, third season. How my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. It's an amazing episode because Corissa Grant returns to the mothership to discuss Worthy Chaos on Kickstarter. Now, come on board as we go traversing the stars. Hi, Miss Grant. Thank you for coming back to the Traversing Stars Podcast.
Thanks for having me back. I
It's
always
really my
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
I find that there's always a book with you to talk about, so you're always welcome to come back.
Yeah, there's always something. Like someone asked me the other day how many issues I've had. So my 2-year anniversary is Halloween, and I've officially made 20 issues.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, only released 15, I think, but I have made 20. So yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, as long as you're keeping busy, I mean, I would hate if you started slacking suddenly, right?
Right? I had a chance. I had a chance. We were just talking about this. I had a chance to take a break. I'm 5 issues ahead. I have covers for the next 2.5 years. Like I could have just done my Kickstarters and not spent any money, but no, I started a new series. So yeah.
So before we jump into your new series, one interesting thing about you is that once again is that you maintain a very prolific release schedule. In the world of indie comic books, you have one of the most prolific release schedules. Because let's face it, indie comic books, a lot of them are like me. Once a year is pretty much what we can handle before we start snapping. You're way more prolific. So is there benefits to keeping such a tight release schedule?
So there's benefits and there's obviously cons to it. I honestly, the only reason why I do it is because I have such a long series. Series Redemption is 44 issues, and then there's a series 2, which is 30, and they're all already written. Um, so there's that. But it's also because people will always see me, they always know what's coming. So um I don't disappear from view. They're I get to annoy them constantly more than most people. But it's so funny because the con is because especially with this economy, a lot of people can't afford it. So I do have
Mhm.
people that'll skip one and then they'll be like, "Where was I?" In fact, the last one, I thought I had lost a couple of regulars, and they're like, "What have I missed?" And they had to catch up in the last two or three. So there's I have very loyal but like me broke followers. Um, but also, if I don't send that link for the next pre-launch the day my Kickstarter ends, they think I'm dead. Like they just like look. So I've done it every time. This is my 13th Kickstarter coming up. I've done it every time except for one time. Kickstarter did not approve of it instant for whatever reason. It took a week. So everyone's like, "Where's the link? Where's the link? Like, where's the link?" And I was like, "It's coming. I don't know." And it was like 5 days later, and I sent it out, and it was like 80 followers in 24 hours because they were flipped out. I was like, I appreciate I either you trained me well or I trained you well. I have no idea how this worked out. But now I have 7 or 6 approved ahead of time. And I actually have 6 in pre-launch now. So there's no more of this waiting thing. So I was instantly approved for like I think 6 or 7. They just kept approving. So I just kept making them. So I
I
think like, oh well.
I think one of the cool things about your release schedule, for those for my comic book, I've created a comic book called Terminus, right? And about Terminus. And I'm releasing about once a year. So I kind of feel like by the time my next book is out, I'm like I need to like a 10-page like this is what you missed, remember this? Do you
Yeah.
remember this comic book from a year ago? Remember? I do exist. The book it wasn't a dream, a fever dream. It does exist out there. But yours, because it comes out so it's almost like buying a Marvel DC comic book, which is like, remember last month. This is just last month. You just got to remember that. And I think there's a benefit to storytelling that way.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard a lot of people say that they wish they had it sooner. And then um there's some people that just get them and then they don't read them and then they read them all at once. But yeah, I pretty much do it. It winds up being every month pretty much. Um, but I get them out in a week. So actually, I was mad at myself for the last one because I meant to get them out within 48 hours, which is my normal. But it took me 5 days and then I felt guilty. So, and my fellow creators are like, why do you always apologize for being like 5 days late? I was like, because I feel like I'm lazy. I am lazy. Don't get me wrong, I'm very lazy, but I don't mean to be lazy with the comic. I think it's the only thing in my life that I haven't been lazy with was the comic. But yeah, I like to get it out within, within 7 days is my max to get them out. Mostly because the next Kickstarter is like in 3 weeks, so you need your issues now. So
And I think what I like about you is that so you have Worthy Chaos Redemption coming out virtually every 3 months, and you decide, you know what? I'm not releasing enough comic books in a year. I need to make a new comic book. I need to make a Western. So most of us are like one comic book a year, and we're like popping champagne, going, "Hey, I got it out there. It's been a year, but it's there." You're like, "Hey, it's been 4 issues a year. My God, why am I so lazy? Let's come up with a brand new comic book that comes out in between." So tell me about the Western comic book that has now inspired you.
yeah, so freaking Western. So Redemption, Worthy Chaos Redemption is a horror survival adventure. The Western, which is Worthy Chaos Devastation, it's not really, obviously they're always trying to survive, but it's more of a quest. They're actually in need of hunting down cryptids, and getting certain ingredients from them for an elixir they have to make. But the trick is they can't kill the cryptid before they get the ingredient. If it dies after, that's okay, but it has to be like so. I like to torture, obviously, my characters. But what makes this unique is that it's all the characters everyone loves. It's a completely different story. It's a completely different quest. But you get to see it from the beginning. They just met and they just, they're not sure about the other one. They also they're angels and demons, but they actually find out pretty much within the first or second issue. I think it's the second issue. So their powers come sooner, their fathers come sooner. They interact with their angel and demon father, which they didn't get to do in the Redemption. Um, and of course they get to encounter all these cryptids, Bigfoot and Mothman and Jersey Devil, Chupacabra. I think there's over 30 of them. 21 of them are ingredients they have to find. And we made up about 10 of them too. Like we have a sheep demon and we have a crow demon and a dragon demon plant. All this cool stuff. But as you know, I am full of merch. And for anyone that's watched Supernatural, and you don't have to watch Supernatural to follow along, but in Supernatural, they have a journal that they write every cryptid down in. So in mine, we offer journals for sale, but also we're going to have a page. Every cryptid they encounter during that issue or they spot in that issue, there's going to be a page for it. So you can collect the pages as you go. And funny enough, I am drawing the pages because Serafina is supposed to be drawing the pages in the story, so I'm going to draw them. So I have no idea how these are going to look, and I apologize ahead of time. I used to be able to sketch. I sketched for 1 year in my life when I was like 13. Yeah, 13 for 1 year. I was amazing. And then I never did it again. So it's been like 20 something years since I've done that. But the other thing is we're going to have the jars that you can collect the ingredients that they collect. And then there's a collection box, like an apothecary kit that you could put the journal in and you could put the jars as you go in there. And I'm making all of them.
So,
So they'll
so
be
just
different.
just to reiterate, so the Western story is going to feature Draven and Sarah Seraphina, but younger.
It's they're a little bit younger, but it's in the 1880s. So it's 100 years before they were born in this life. So this is a previous life. And it will directly connect eventually to Redemption. When we get tired of writing it. Right now, I think we're 12 issues in. We always had the ending because in their previous life, what happens at the end directly reflects why Redemption is different, why that life is different. So it does all connect. But yeah, it's still the same characters. They haven't met in this life yet, so you're going to meet them for the first time. In Redemption, they had met when they were teenagers. They knew each other. Then they were separated for 10 years. So for this one, they're about in their mid 20s or whatever, which is what, like old age in the 1880s. I don't know. But yeah, so they get to meet for the first time. Draven is still, he's not an assassin per se, but he's trained as a killer. He's in a gang. He still works for Davies, which there's a reason why, and you don't obviously find out to the end, but there is a reason why Davies is there. She is a supernatural hunter. Now, for anyone that watches Supernatural, there's Samuel Colt, which in history is an inventor, obviously, of the cult. Um, he died before the 1880s, but his son is an inventor and he's during the 1880s. So he's actually going to be mentioned and talked about. So we try to be historically accurate to events and inventions, but don't think they're going to speak like that because that was way too much painful for our heads. So they're not necessarily going to speak with a Western tang or with an old speech, but everything else is as accurate as we're going to do it. So yeah.
So, so once again, being a Western, and Westerns have very specific tropes about them, stylistically, how they kind of follow through. So, how is it going to be stylistically different than what we're seeing in Redemption?
So in Redemption, they're pretty much just trying to survive. They're trying to get out of the town, they're trying to get out of the asylum, they're trying to get out of the zombie infested city in the next episode 13, 14 on. Then they're on an island. So it's more like they're being driven forward only for the reason to survive. And in Devastation, it's more like they're just trying to they're together and they are trying to survive against like demons and werewolves and vampires, but they're also on this quest to do certain things. They're trying to hunt down these cryptids. They're trying to you know, find what they need to find. And it's not all the ingredients because there is more later on. But it's more of a adventure instead of a survival. That's not really horror related. Except for, I mean, there's monsters and stuff, but it's more supernatural than monsters. And it's not, they don't have to go in a linear direction just to get away from their fathers or hellhounds or zombies. They're actually going towards the danger. They're actually trying to hunt down these things. And it's kind of cool how they interact with some of them. Obviously, not all are bad. I think there's like a couple of good ones, like Bigfoot isn't going to be bad. Mothman's not completely evil because he's more of a prophecy guy. So it's kind of that. It's kind of cool to have this quest that they're still them, they're still their personalities. But it's nice to see them build that trust up. And they kind of did that in Redemption, but they also knew each other as kids, so they actually had that, and obviously they have that instantaneous bond like they always do, but they have this doubt because the fathers come in and they lay doubt onto them and be like, oh, Draven's just doing this for this and all that. So it's a lot of character building and fun stuff like that.
Well, this may be the most important question, so brace yourself. The most important question is, does Anubis appear in the series?
No, there's
No.
no Anubis. Um, yeah, he's not in this one. He might be in like some minor parts, like flashbacks or whatever, but generally the Wendigo takes his we have an alpha Wendigo which winds up stalking them most of the time. So he kind of takes the place of Anubis. And I know a lot of people will be upset about that, but you still see him in Redemption. He's actually in Redemption more and more as the story goes. Especially when they get to the island, he actually joins them most of the time. So he'll be in it more. But yeah, unfortunately, and Croc isn't there either. There are chatties if you've read that far. But they're not with her. They're just vampire chameleon bats that are part of the cryptid community.
Well,
Um, yeah,
well, I'm not sure. I think my wife might be disappointed because last campaign, I think last one, the one before, she bought the Anubis plushie doll that you had.
yeah.
So I'm just saying, you do have fans who are going to expect this in the Western. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I know. He just didn't fit in the Western. But yeah, and Bastille is gonna be in the Bassett is gonna be in Redemption more. She'll be on the island too, and she's a plushie too. So if you haven't gotten that one, you need that one now. But yeah, no Anubis. I know, and there's no Croc. I actually want the Croc. My I had a perfect plan for him, but my co-writer is against it. So there's no Croc. Um, but she does have some animal sidekicks. One of them is, most people are not going to know what this is. There's a creature called a squonk. Big cryptid people will know what it is. All it does is sit in the woods and cry because how ugly it is. And of course, Seraphina is nice to it, so it follows her around. Draven wants to shoot it and put it out of his misery, so he makes him cry. But yeah, he's gonna be in there. We also have her rat is gonna be there, Apollo. We do have a lot more plushies because almost not all the cryptids, because there's 30 of them, but a lot of the cryptids each have a plushie. I think there's gonna be 2 per campaign. So like issue 1 is Bigfoot in our alpha Wendigo, and 2 is the Crow Demon. And if anyone doesn't know what this is, you gotta look it up. It's a Snagglegaster. It's the weirdest freaking thing ever. It's like a hairy or fuzzy dragon with chicken legs and a vulture head. But the craziest thing is it's got like tentacles for tongues. It's really, you gotta see this. It's really weird. And then I think there's uh I think the Squonk and Chupacabra are in there and all that stuff. So yeah, so we're having plushies galore, which I'm having a ball with because you know I love plushies. So like we're overtime. In fact, my plushie queen that makes these for me just sent me the design for the Wendigo's eyes and for the 6-eyed demon crow. So she's sending me she's starting on the embroidery and stuff. So yeah. But
So I'm just throwing this idea out there, Anubis did exist during the Old West. I mean, he's been around for thousands of years. The idea of it. So I'm just saying.
he has, you are not wrong. I'll see if we can fit him in there somewhere.
I'm just saying that it's got to be an Old West
You
Anubis
want him to
plushie
wear a
out there
cowboy hat?
somewhere. Like a little cowboy hat. Maybe some 6 shooters. I'm just saying, throwing it out there for you.
That would be adorable. I can totally see that happening. I saw little cowboy hats for sale actually that I was gonna put on my Apollo rat. So there's hope there. But yeah, I mean these are the journals actually. So it's these little mini journals. And the pages you can take in and out. So what we'll do is if as long as you pledge during that campaign, you get the page for free. And it's gonna be more than one because there's gonna be spottings of cryptids and interactions with some cryptids, and just because you see them once doesn't mean you don't see them again later. So there'll probably be a lot of pages, but everyone's like, I want to see what you draw. I was like, yeah, me too. So
I
it'll
mean,
be interesting.
anyone who follows your campaigns, though, you are the queen of reward tiers. So you got new plushies for cryptids. We got a journal. What else are you cooking?
Then we got the ingredients. So each jar is going to have a label, a charm, and an ingredient inside of whatever they have to capture. Like, for example, the Wendigo has ground up antler. So inside is going to be ground up black quartz, which is the antler. And then we seal it on top with wax and rope. And then you can collect it in a apothecary box that we're going to design so that you can collect them all as you go. There's going to be 21 different ingredients. And I'm
Not edible.
excited. Huh?
Not edible, correct? Even though it's an elixir,
No,
they're not
no.
edible.
Yeah, ingredients for an elixir. So like it has to be whatever doesn't kill the animals. So for a Wendigo, it's an antler. For the chupacabra, it's a nail. For the crow, it's a feather, but there's a really complicated thing. Every time you grab the crow, it bursts into flames and turns to ash. So that's very fun for my characters. Um, One was, so I don't know if you know what a kelpie is, but a kelpie is the horse that tries to drown you and it has seaweed as its mane. So she has to get seaweed. So then there'll be dry seaweed in the jar. So each one will be something different. The werewolves are fangs. So we have fangs that we're gonna put look like they're torn out. So it's gonna have
Eh,
like gum and
But I'm
slime on
just making sure we're warning the listeners, do not take these ingredients and make an actual elixir and use it.
Yeah.
Right? These are
Yeah.
not things you can actually drink, so do not actually do so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And we're gonna seal the jar. You can't open the jar.
So you think.
Just in case. But I'm gonna put do not ingest in it, and then I'll also put on the bottom these were ethically sourced. Not no cryptids were killed in the collection of these.
Because it does sound like a new TikTok challenge to me. Like
Yeah.
shatter the jar, make an elixir.
Yeah, please don't try to eat the Mothman powder or the straw man straw, scarecrow straw. Yeah, but it's probably best not to eat those. But now because you said this, I am gonna put do not eat on each one.
I'm just saying. I mean, I just picture the new TikTok challenge of lick the elixir, take
Yeah,
a swig, see what happens.
yeah. Try not to do that. Try to resist the urge.
The other so once again we're looking at the Western. We have the prior lives of, like I said, Seraphina and Draven.
Mhm,
At the same time, approximately, we're publishing issues of Redemption.
mhm.
Um,
Every other month. So it'll be so like the Western will be January 6th and Redemption issue 13 is February 17th. And then the next month is going to be the next Western and back and forth. So
well,
essentially, yeah, it's going to be 8 campaigns next year.
well, obviously, my question, as someone who does read too much DC and Marvel, when you have two stories that are connected, they tend to cross over. Are we
Yeah.
having a Old West Redemption crossover because that's kind of what these comic books do now when they have spin-offs.
No, there won't be any that I can think of. There will probably not be any crossovers because not with my own, but I do have plans to cross over hopefully with other indie creators. We have talked about it. I don't know, Rob Matari and Nightwolf, we want to do a crossover. With Lori, we want to do a crossover. Unfortunately, hers is a modern day Western, so we can't have Jude in the back, and I'm very upset about it. But there will be a crossover with Redemption and Path of the Pale Rider. There's a couple other people that have approached me about crossovers. Some of them I don't know how to make them work, but I'm fine trying. Um, but yeah, they won't cross over each other. We could do if we want now, if we want to be crazy, we can have a part. If do you remember the never ending story where he looks in the mirror and he sees himself?
Yeah,
Yeah. So we might, who knows? Maybe there'll be one part where they're doing something because there is sorcery in Western. So maybe they do something where they see redemption doing something. So
I'm
might
just
have to throw that up there.
I'm saying there's always time. What did Doctor Who say? Timey-wimey stuff that happens to these things.
Yeah, it could be, you never know. But yeah, one of the other differences, redemption is already written and very rigid in its direction, everything that happens correlates to what happened last, so it's kind of like they have to keep going in this one direction. With the Western, they can go wherever they want as we go, and we're actually going to have a map, kind of like Lord of the Rings, where you can keep track of the cryptids and where you saw them, and we're going to have like a free reward that at the end of each hardcover campaign, if you could show a picture of if you collected all of the locations of where they are, then you get something for free that we're gonna have. So there's gonna be like games. So you're kind of following along with them. You're finding these cryptids with them. You're collecting the journal pages. It's gonna be stickers, keychains, of course, all sorts of fun stuff.
So
Um,
it reminds me because once again you mentioned your love for Supernatural,
yeah,
and Supernatural in many ways at its heart is a road film of
yeah,
America. You go
that's
to
what it's
different
kind of.
cities across the country, and if you actually were to stop probably and create a map of Supernatural episodes, you would have a definitely a roadmap of most of the country.
Yeah,
Even though it's filmed in Canada,
yeah,
the idea of it is that it's filmed, the idea of it that it's most of the United States. And this Old West comic book that you're doing, because they're not being stuck in any one city, they're able to expand.
yeah.
How much of it is it a look at the American West? And are you looking at real locations or fictional locations?
So it's kind of a mix of both, like where they stationed, where their cabin is, where they kind of go back to is kind of one location. It's kind of made up. But we are going to have them go to different states, and we're going to like I have a whole list of cryptids that are in those states. And I'm going to be completely honest, not all cryptids are where they're supposed to be. Jersey, there's not a lot of chupacabras around here. But there are going to be some local ones because we found a whole list of where each state has at least 10 cryptids. So we're going to pick at least one from each one to kind of go from state to state. I'm not going to say all states are going to be there. Our favorite states, I shouldn't say our favorites, the states where we reside in will have, like, this is Tennessee cryptids. My co-writer is in Kentucky, so there's going to be some of those. And I used to live in New York, so there's going to be some from New York. So we're going to have like that, like little Easter eggs of wherever they are. So it is going to be more of a travel, and it's more laid back kind of. I mean, it's obviously there's lots of action because I don't know how to write anything besides action. I just don't have that ability. I wish I could. But it's a lot of action, but it's not as rushed as the other one. You don't have to rush out. A lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people, two people that were podcasters are like, this is very, very, very too fast paced. And I was like, well, it's chaotic. That's the name. This is more, not laid back per se, but they're rushed for time kind of, but they don't have to go in one linear direction. They can choose their path. Like they're gonna go to the mines and get the Tommy Knockers whiskers is their unedible ingredient. And they have to go to the ocean to get the kelpie, and the boro, which is the alligator looking thing, is in the swamp. So they're gonna go to these different locations. So it's kind of more of, like you said, more of like a roadmap quest kind of thing instead of us just survival one direction kind of thing. Yeah.
So, as you mentioned, there's the Old West, you have the elixir. What is the impetus to get the elixir? What is the overall quest about?
So it's well, if anyone that read Redemption knows our clotters, you get to see how the clotters were created in the Western. So they actually bite her, and the elixir is to find the things for the cure. But what they don't know is, and what we know as readers, is that the cure isn't real. She's actually immune to the vampire bite, but Davies is tricking them to get this elixir for life. Davies' whole thing in life, and even in Redemption, which hasn't really been talked about, all he ever wanted was immortal life. He always wants immortal life. He wants to control the world, and he needs time to do it. So he's going to do it, but there's certain things that are going to happen with the elixir that's going to backfire. It's going to cause things to happen, and that's going to be a second part of the story. So like the first part is pretty much them trying to find these elixirs. The second part is dealing with the outcome of the elixir. And there's reoccurring things like demons and angels are very reoccurring. Werewolves will probably be at least reoccurring for a certain amount of issues, but the clotters are going to be, they don't know this yet because the clotters are new, so they don't know the rules, but they can sense her because they bit her. And for anyone that remembers, once they bite you, they can they can track you wherever you go. So they're going to be tracking her as they go. But they're weaker in this because they're brand new and they're building up. So it's kind of cool because I love the clotters. I thought they were so cool, and I always wanted to do something else with them. And I was like, oh, I could do a spinoff or whatever. I can hunt them. But I was like, oh, I'm gonna put them in the Western, and then it kind of worked out kind of cool. This was not a planned thing. Literally, we woke up on the same day and was like, I want to do a Western. I was like, me too. And it was just that was it. It was like a month and a half ago. We already have 12 issues written. So we're obviously a little obsessed and all that stuff. So yeah, as usual, I just get eccentric and that's why people think I'm ADHD. My friend took me out today and she goes, I think you're ADHD, and she'd like seek help. And I was like, it's working for me. It's like, I'm fine. It's whatever. I might go broke, but it's working for me. So, yeah.
So, as you mentioned, also Redemption, the hardcover for issues 8 to 12 is coming out as well. So, as the important question, as I talk with you, is what are the rewards for this one that are new?
The hardcovers have less rewards than the other ones because I found that during the last hardcover, not a lot of people bought extras, but there are some. There's the new plushies that are come in. They should be arrived by then. We have, Chatty, and we have the Hellhound, which someone bought my prototype, so I don't even have my Hellhound. But they should be in. They're getting shipped. And we have other like Anubis things. We have keychains and charms and all sorts of that. We actually have some really cool necklaces and keychains and stuff, and some new stickers, magnets, all that fun stuff. And we do have the little army men that we're going to offer out that'll be free with some of the rewards. So there's a couple of things. Some metal bookmarks, new metal trading cards. So there'll be some things there. And you'll be able to get a good deal on both hardcovers. This hardcover is 200 pages it's got like 40 pages extra, and we're only selling it for $29. So it's going to be a little bit cheaper for people because the last one was 7 issues and this is 5. So, but it's going to be a gorgeous cover. It's in the mail. It's on its way. Should be another 2 weeks, and we're going live October 14th. So hopefully that'll go well. That we're in pre-launch now. If you search Worthy Chaos on Kickstarter, you'll find 3 pre-launches. So have at it. So there's a couple of things you can, and it's kind of funny to see them go neck and neck. The hardcover is always less followers because a lot of, not everyone gets them. It is a good way to catch up though, because as you know, the redemption went so fast in 2 years. We had 12 issues. So it went a little fast. This is super quick to and easy. It's going to be $59 and you can get both hardcovers and you can be all caught up and then ready for 13 that's coming out. And if anyone reads the end of 12, you're going to kill me that 13's in February. But yeah, I'm sorry.
So the campaign for the hardcover is when, and the Western comes out, you said.
So October 14th is the hardcovers. I always launch on Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then for the Western, it's January 6th, Monday, 6 Eastern. And then February 17th, I believe, is the issue 13.
Very cool. Miss Grant, it's been an honor to speak with you as always. It's great to hear. Every time I speak to you, I get new ideas for rewards that I can't afford to do, but I would like to. So they're always in my head. So I just want to thank you for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Vertus Stars podcast. Please like and subscribe. Turn for next episode when Duncan Regier boards the mothership to discuss Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Monster Squad. To next voyage, travel on.